one man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in Hex on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call Hex, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
I have no idea if I am unmuted or on camera because everything is frozen.
You're
Can you
good.
hear me or see me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Do I have your attention now? Do I have it? Welcome everybody to the Creed of Crypto. My name is Broke Boy Crypto, and I am pretty fucking broke tonight. Nothing is working on my end, so this all could go out at any time. But welcome into the Creed of Crypto. I have Crypto Ewok here with me as well. We got DJ Moonboy in the chat, Marco, Marcelo, Viper Styles, Rolando, Valiant Lowkey, 44, Scrubhead, and there goes the camera. Yeah, just see you later. So welcome in. We got a big show for you tonight, all about what is going on with PulseChain, and it's quite a lot. We hit the 2-year anniversary, the 2-year mark of PulseChain's existence, was just 2 days ago. So happy birthday to PulseChain. We got a lot of bullish stuff obviously happening, not only within PulseChain, but crypto overall. Ethereum looking really, well, I mean, overall horrible, but I mean, it is making a rally against Bitcoin finally. I mean, it's just finally like, can we allow ourselves to feel a little bit good after 4 years of being punched squarely in the testicles and ovaries. So that's kind of where we are, but we are starting to look a little bit good. We had the news, obviously, of the Richard Hart video last week. We talked about that a whole bunch, and we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about here tonight that we'll get to if my notes actually load. But Ewok, how are you this evening? How are you feeling about the markets? And feel free to talk a minute so I can fix this stuff.
Absolutely, man. I'm feeling good. Things are what I feel finally getting out of the bad juju. It's not going straight up, but we're having some consecutive days of up. Green candles definitely make people in a better mood. You can again see it. I said it last week too. You can see it on Twitter, X. You can tell things are definitely kind of shifting. So it's been good. The markets are doing kind of what we thought they would at first. I will go ahead and pull up the ETH chart if you don't mind. Or you're back?
Yeah, I have been here. I just fixing this stupid ass camera. So
okay.
We can do that. We can get into our normal flow here for now anyway. So we got BTC and ETH. I think I saw just a bit earlier BTC's at just over about 103K. So it's been chilling out kind of in this zone up over 100K, which is nice to see. I'm imagining we could do a little bit of a retracement because things have been pretty bullish recently, but still looking pretty good. ETH has gone up as high as, I think like 2,700 or so. And again, retraced a little bit. Nothing crazy, but it still is hanging out right around that number, which is really good to see. Again, not looking great overall when you zoom out and look at the chart in the last year or two. But the ratio, we had ETH go up 20% a day. We haven't had that, and I don't even know how long. I think maybe the ETF announcement way back when. And could it be the start of ETH closing the gap? And the funny thing is, there's a lot of mainstream like Bitcoin and crypto influencers that are still, even with this turnaround, something just went out again. I heard. I have no idea. I don't even know what I was saying. A bunch of Bitcoin people are basically talking about ETH sucking and this is just a fake rally and it's going to come back down and blah blah blah. But that's kind of what they always do also. So what do you make of this? I mean, is this a suckers rally? Is this thing actually coming back? What do you think is going on with ETH? Well, I mean, we'll talk about Bitcoin too, but what do you think about ETH here?
Well, no, I don't think it's a suckers rally at all. I mean, you don't get this kind of rise out of a suckers rally. And, we're continuing on 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 weekly candles. Currently, this is the weekly chart that I have pulled up now. So no, I mean, it's usually when you see a suckers rally, it's one or two big candles and then it immediately falls, and that clearly hasn't happened. We are now testing in between the 50 and the 200 moving averages for the weekly, which is a big deal. You know, if we take this back to even the daily, um, you know, you can see the bullish momentum ever since, what's this, basically April 9th, which has been over a month of essential up. You know, you got your occasional red candles in there, which again is healthy. We always say that, you know, you need some of those to keep the markets even and to keep the sellers at bay. And yeah, I mean, but since a month now, we've been essentially going up, and the price action looks good. Suckers rallies don't last out. It's you know, the tides are definitely turning. I think so. Yeah, everything's looking good. You were right. We did get up to 2730 or 2740 or something like that. We hit this level. If you go back, this was a big resistance level um, back in February, when it tried to break through many times, and then got smacked down. You know, there were several that were in that area that just they tried and they tried and tried, and then it just got smacked down again. So let's see what happens here in these next couple weeks. I think the bulls have mostly left, or the bears have mostly left, and the bulls have entered the room. So this hopefully is a good sign for things to come. And you know, a couple pullbacks here will be natural, and I wouldn't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, it's oh, there it goes. I guess it just doesn't like me to talk. That's kind of what's going on here. So pretty neat. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. And the interesting thing too, so we've had some other like narrative catalysts happen here too. So US CPI data came out lower than expected, but I thought tariffs were going to destroy everything and inflation was going to shoot right back up. And what are we going to do? But we have CPI moving down a little bit more. It's at 2.3%. I mean, these are the numbers we get. We were saying this even during the Biden administration. Who knows what the hell the actual number is for inflation? But
Right.
Either way, it did come in slightly cooler than expected. So the markets definitely sucked that up the other day, which is why we saw, you know, things move a little bit up. And then, you know, with other macro stuff, speaking of the tariff stuff, China and the US loosening on tariffs, you know, and this is something that you and I talked about from the beginning, and not just us, I mean, many others, that not that Trump was necessarily faking anything, but obviously, you know, the art of the deal, negotiating, like you start at a certain place that you ideally want to be at and then walk it down from that. So, I mean, you know, there could have been bluffs in there and things like that on his side, China's side, everybody's side. And then you see, as weeks and months go by, contrary to the fear mongering within media outlets and stuff like that, like, oh, if he does this, this is going to happen. And oh my God, he said this. It's like, yeah, that's how these things work. They have to play out. And traditionally, you know, your broad brush, immediate reaction, knee buckle, panic reaction is not appropriate. It's not going to be what we end up actually seeing. And here we are, you know, seeing things cool off a little bit. I mean, not that Trump is, you know, totally turned around on tariffs. I don't mean that, but we are seeing the ebbs and flows of this, and it's not just going, you know, to the heights that everybody kind of felt at the beginning. So what do you think about that? And how much do you think, at least in the short term, maybe some of these things are having an impact? Because, yeah, I think the market is absorbing this positively. And on that note, just real quick, I did see a tweet the other day. I didn't even realize this. The S&P 500 has erased all of its losses of 2025 as of the other day. So it has been rallying and has recouped as well. So what do you make of all that macro stuff?
Well, it's funny you said that, because I just traced where we are now to about the top, and we are essentially 4% off of the whatever the highs were, the all-time high back here in February. So we are 4% away from going right back to where it was. We talked about this last week, the week before, I believe, how the fear porn really, they try to get you on the news and make you worry about everything and what the president's doing. And, you know, because they're all owned by that side, and it doesn't matter what he does. They're going to try and make you go against him. But, obviously they're working, right? We've got a deal now with China, or at least a pause, or whatever they're deciding to do. But yeah, he's a great negotiator, and he knows that we were being unfairly treated for many, many years. You've got all these countries now coming to the table and saying, hey, we'll give you what you want. We understand how big of a player you are in the world economy, and we can't have that. It's just things wouldn't work if we didn't. So yeah, I mean, things are great. We don't know, like you said, we don't know what the real inflation rate is, but it came in a lot lower than expected, which is a great sign. And it's showing in all the markets, and the confidence level is coming back, on top of what I said earlier. Green candles in crypto, but the overall macro markets are looking really good, and we're almost back to where we were before all this fear started. So yeah, I don't think things could be any better for where we're at in this part of the cycle, and what we've got left for the rest of the year for it to play out. So I'm pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, I think so too. It just seems like so many good boxes are being ticked off here, and finally now it seems that let's face it, good boxes I think were being ticked off since last November, as far as politically and macroeconomics. I mean, with Trump obviously, absolutely dominating the election, and then everything that we did see after that, all the positive crypto news that we've gotten, we just haven't really seen since literally election night is when we were rallying to new all-time highs.
Yeah.
For Bitcoin. Yeah. I mean, we haven't seen this positive of price action for a little while, despite all the positive news. So it's great. Obviously, within this PulseChain ecosystem, people are even more happy. I think they should be anyway, because we have RH back doing videos again and stuff like that. The SEC case, 100% fully won at this point. I mean, yeah. And also rumblings that maybe this, ridiculous red notice that the Finnish government, wants to kind of do a shakedown, obviously, of RH, potentially going away too. So yeah, things just looking good all around. Did you have any final thoughts on Bitcoin or ETH or anything?
No, and I was looking here. That's November 5th is was the election day.
Yep.
And it started what we're in essentially right now. So let's just take a look of what it was at the bottom of that day to where we're at currently. 53%. That's just Bitcoin anyway. 53% over the last 190 days. So
yeah.
I mean, and we've had our share of pullbacks too. I mean, some of these have been pretty sizable drawdowns and shakeouts. But yeah, I couldn't be more pleased with where we're at in the cycle at this time. And I think it's going to kind of play into what we were doing in 2017, and set up for a late year blow off top.
That would be awesome. And we've talked about that possibility for a while, that we are kind of tracking more so the 2017 cycle than the 2021 cycle, because things have been, other than Bitcoin, so down obviously this year. And now here we are mid-May, and this is where we saw Bitcoin hit its first top in the prior cycle. But we already saw Bitcoin, again, like we just stated, hit a new high back in November of 2024. So a little bit of a different landscape. And of course, Ethereum's been flat out dead for nearly a year. So now we're starting to see it rally a little bit. Will we get a proper alt season here sometime soon? And like Ewok said, yeah, maybe something crazy at the very end of the year. And we've talked about many times, like the possibility of these things spilling over into 2026, even if it isn't Bitcoin. If it doesn't, and that would make sense that it doesn't run that far, altcoins certainly could. And if not Ethereum and aggregate altcoins, at least some altcoins sectors still could. So that said, and we're still early, like it is still May in this year. So there's time to go. And as we know, a lot of this stuff can pop off crazily in a short period of time. But at the same time, you want to reassess later in the year, because as we well know, any of us that bag held from the last cycle, and had so many discussions. Funny enough, if you go back and listen to the first few episodes of this podcast, which were exclusively on Spotify, we weren't doing a live stream yet. We were talking, you and I, going back and forth, not arguing, but like about the possibility of like the bull market running into 2022. And that so many people were still like, oh yeah, we're still in a correction here, even as like, you know, Russia, Ukraine had started and stuff like that. I think it took a lot of people till Terra Luna in May of that year to be like, all right, we're in a bear market now. You know, I mean, it just took people some time, but there was many people that are heavily followed still to this day that, you know, we're talking about like, no, we're going to run into April of 2022. You know, Bitcoin's going to go over 100K, and no, that did not happen at all. So you want to be careful of that too as we get to the end of this year, depending upon where we're at. I don't know where we'll be or what we'll be seeing with everything, but watch out if things are extremely frothy. For some people calling for like, yeah, we're pushing into 2026, we're going to go to 500K or, you know, something like that. So,
I'm sure you'll hear it, the $1 million Bitcoin. You know, there's always those influencers out there that say it, and you know, just wildly over expectations of what it can do. And you know, there are people that listen to it and they continue to buy, and you know, it's unfortunate, but that goes to show the importance of when you DCA in, you should be DCAing out as well. You're going to catch levels. You may catch the top that way, and otherwise, if you're waiting for when you think it's right, there is so much euphoria that happens that your mind doesn't let you think that that's it. It just doesn't. And it's hard to explain unless you've been there, and I've been there twice, and both times I just did not let myself unload anything. So yeah.
Oh, you're going to unload this time. You're going to unload all. Yeah.
Lessons to be learned.
Yeah, lessons to be learned. And, you know, it's kind of the inverse of buying in the bear market. I mean, in a way, I mean, some people, they may have only had the opportunity to buy in the bear market so far. So they know that kind of fear of like, oh my God, it's a falling knife. What the hell am I doing? I'm putting my whole paycheck in here. I'm a goddamn idiot. You have that fear. And it may be the same fear the other way, you know, when you're up that high. It's like, why am I selling now? What if this goes up another 10x, dude? Then I'm going to be able to do X, Y, or Z. So, yeah, it's two different types of fear. But I think the best thing, even though it's a different environment, try to channel those same feelings and be as objective as you can to be like, this is a plan. I'm doing this for a reason. It feels like it makes sense to buy and or sell right now. You know, if Sami I love this. Sami always uses Ty Lopez as a top signal, but if Ty Lopez is all of a sudden on PulseChain or something like that, making a knowledge coin or something, then you might want to get out. So I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Hit the like if you guys are enjoying the stream so far. Welcome in Tam, Viper Styles, Valiant Low-Key. I shouted you guys out earlier. We got Fast Abdul in here as well. So shout out to all of you. Thank you for being here. We'll take a look at the PulseChain prices. So we are in a little bit of a correction right now. So we saw Pulse go pump up to what, 4 zeros and a 4.2 or something yesterday. It was really looking strong, and still has been, and seemingly like ever since prior to last week and the Richard video and everything and all the bullishness we've seen, every time we get a little extra stair step up and a little bit of a pump, there seems to be like a healthy correction back down, but it's not long lived. You know, like it hasn't been like we've come way down and erased the whole move. It's actually remained strong and done this little stair step. So we have Pulse at 4 zeros and a 386. We've got Pulse X at 4 zeros 3.5. We got Inc at $1.83 right now. Hex at 00875. And EHEX chiming in at 0028 right now. The always controversial EHEX. So, yeah, we have been seeing some really bullish action here and a lot of strength from Pulse. So, what do you make of it? And am I actually frozen, or is that just what I'm seeing on my
end? Yeah, you might. Your camera's frozen, but at least it's there.
Cool. Awesome.
It froze a little bit ago too, but you came right back. So,
okay.
Let's go over take a look at the chart here while you are frozen and give it a few minutes to catch up. So, yeah, this 385 is where we're at now, or 3865 anyway. Let's go back. And I believe this was one of the crucial bottoms from before that we're just trying to break through. Actually, we kind of broke through that level. This is a different level of low back here in August of 24. So it doesn't look like we stayed at that level too long. And back even further. Yeah, I mean, I guess there is substantial amount of probably resistance here. But again, it doesn't take a whole lot of capital to bust through these levels because of the low liquidity situation that we're in right now. I wouldn't be too concerned, and I think we need to be very strategic about people getting out too soon.
Could you zoom your chart in a little bit, Ewok? Heft or Hugh here, once he's done messing around with the playmates, wanted to be able to see the chart a little bit better. There you go.
Better?
Is that to your liking, Hugh? Let us know. Anyway, and put nudies back in your magazine. Anyway.
But yeah, so again, I think there's some I think it's mostly traders that are chopping around in these areas. But don't be surprised when they get left behind. And I can see that happening again with the low liquidity situation that we're in. I don't think it's going to take too much to break through these levels. But when you're deploying capital, you want to be strategic about it. You don't want to just be people's exit liquidity. You have to kind of wait till they're a little more exhausted before you get out. And I think that's just the situation that we're in with PulseChain right now.
Yeah, I think so too. But every time I click something, it just doesn't like that. Wonderful time tonight. But yeah, it certainly feels like the bottom is in, obviously, at this point. I mean, we're well over a 2x up for Pulse as far as that goes. I thought this was an interesting thing. I was going to bring this up on last week's show when we were talking a little bit about, I don't know when this was, actually, might have been 2 weeks ago, but we were talking about FlexNet and DipCatcher's new layer 2 to use Hex as the gas token. I'm sure some of you probably saw his stream earlier with RH Max. I know Ewok and I tuned into it a little bit. My point isn't so much about FlexNet, but I wanted to ask you this, and this was obviously stemming from like a somewhat troll tweet from DipCatcher because he likes to, mix it up a little bit. I mean, I think he has some good intentions, but I think we've talked about this before. I think he just also likes being a contrarian. But
yeah,
one day, talking about the potential of this ecosystem and what you may need to, make it, quote unquote, whatever that may mean for you individually. He was posting one day and said, how many billion pulse does one need to make it this cycle? And I said billion with a B. So, that's something that ruffled feathers, obviously, because there's not, you're considered, I don't know what status you would be, but I mean, like, a lot of the people in this ecosystem that have high hopes do not have a billion pulse, I guess is what I'm saying, or billions of pulse. So that's why DipCatcher, I think, was saying it that way. So he was saying that on one hand, and then on the other hand, it was saying, talking about, powered by FlexNet, that eHex will go to $5, and that was a belief of his, which I don't think there's a world where one of those two things happen, that you will need billions of pulse to be well off, and eHex goes to $5. I think, something in between those. But I mean, I'm good with either one of those scenarios. Whether he is, I think everybody should be positioned that way, hopefully. But what is your take on that? I know it's kind of an erroneous thing, I guess, but just talking about like where prices are, a lot of people, I saw Big Pep a couple of weeks ago posted here's the numbers I think you need to make it. This amount of pulse, this amount of pulse X. I mean, everybody's opinion is going to be a little bit different, and it's up to the individual and how you're DCAing. But I'm curious your opinion, Ewok, about that, I guess, like the spread of what one may need or what you'd feel comfortable with. But I mean, if eHex goes to $5 and, Pulse is the epic failure that DipCatcher thinks it is, a lot of people are still going to be okay. So I don't think that, again, that you can marry those two realities. But yeah, what do you make of that analysis? And yeah, and the people I think should have exposure to eHex. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but we both are proponents of that.
Well, you could need billions at this cycle, at least two. to have a successful run on PulseChain. Usually, until things get divided up a lot more and spread out and the market gets a little bit thinner, you need some whales to exit. And it happens the first cycle. There were plenty of whales that exited Hex at the top, and look what happened to the price. Things get redistributed amongst more wallets, and it doesn't become as heavy when one person sells. So, that theory could be right. Like, if you really want to retire on just PulseChain, you could need 3 or 4 billion. Maybe.
I guess that's a point too. And sorry to interrupt, I'll let you continue, but I guess I wasn't thinking that maybe his thesis, he was talking like if you only hold Pulse, which I don't.
Right.
Who is doing that?
I
wouldn't
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's the point he was trying to make, then that could be correct. I mean, what's a billion Hex right now? It's only what, $39,000-$40,000, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that statement could be true, but and again, because and the same for PulseX. Now, PulseX is being burnt at a faster level. Obviously, its price performance is crazy, and most people that got into PulseX also got some Pulse, or vice versa. Most people that got into Pulse definitely got into PulseX because they were there for the first one. They didn't miss the second one. But most people that have had both have also been collecting incentive along the way, have been already had Hex. If you sacrifice for Pulse, most likely you had Hex, because that's how you knew about it. So, as a whole, I think everything together is gonna, and I don't even remember. I remember Big Pep making that statement. I don't remember what the totals were.
Yeah, neither.
They were probably more realistic across the board, and if you had like all of those things, you would be fine. Probably a couple million Hex, probably several 100,000 Pulse, several 100,000 or 100 million Pulse and PulseX, and probably close to 1,000 incentive or something along those lines would be my guess. But yeah, I mean, nobody knows. And until some of these big whales get out and redistribute some of the wealth amongst many, many more wallets, we need adoption. We've got to have it on the way up, and try and get this divided out, and where some people will be taking profits, but hopefully there's enough onboarding that happens to get some of that into fresh new wallets, new hands, and it gets redistributed a little bit. That's really what we need.
Yeah, I am with you. I think everybody, you're whatever you deem to be, whatever you can afford to buy. I mean, it's whatever you can actually do. And for me, it's always been more about like, what are my percentage weights in each one of them, more than it is the amount that I have. I mean, obviously you want to have as much of all of them that you can, but for me, it's been about like just acquiring which token I want to, and what my overall percentages are. But again, you and I, as far as like the Hex eHex thing and that debate and battle, which is still going on now, seemingly, we've always maintained. I mean, you kind of had to, because you were, day one Hexagon, so of course you've got a huge, well, I don't want to speak for you, but you've got an allocation to eHex that you're already pretty comfortable with. You're not going to get out of, obviously.
Right.
And then myself, I mean, I bought a decent amount last cycle, obviously, and I've continued to DCA it, not as hard, I'll say, as some of the other stuff, but like Johnny Chaos has said many times, like, why choose? Because you're just gonna be wrong,
right?
Yep. Why choose one or the other? And you never know. I mean, like when you DCA even little bits into eHex, you could just be buying the one that's on a discount to future parity. I mean, I don't really know that I see that coming, but why force yourself to do one thing, So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, why take the chance, right? Why take the chance of being wrong? Just because. And I keep seeing, I don't remember who it is that keeps posting it, but they keep saying right now you can get 1 million eHex for $3,000 or so, right over 3,000. And it's what, 3 times as much, so probably like 9 or 10,000 for a million PulseX. So that's just kind of where we're at in the market. It's a lot more undervalued, I think. I do think with the lower liquidity on the Ethereum side that it could run a lot harder, but it's going to dip even harder too. So we may see some really good run-ups, but there are going to be people that are going to take profits and just nuke that price, because that's just because it can move up easy means that it can go down just as easy too. So looks like we lost Broke Boy. He must be trying to reboot his system or go out and come back in and try and fix things. But yeah, anyway, that's where we're at. Let's take a look at while we're waiting for him, let's take a look at the EHEX chart. Wow. When you look at it that way. All right, let's use the log chart. That's always much more friendly. This level I noticed was kind of critical back here too. It was a lot of support in the area that we're at. Support here. There was a little bit of support here before it got through. So the same with PHEX right now. We hit that penny mark and it essentially bounced right off of it. So we could end up running into some of these levels that are now more mental levels, like the penny, like the 2 cent, 5 cent. Those things become mental barriers for people. And I think a lot of it becomes because they say, well, when it gets to a penny, I'm going to sell this much, or when it gets to 5 cents, I'm going to sell this much. And I think that's why you run into those roadblock type things, unless a candle just shoots it right through. That's kind of what happens. So let's see. I think Broke Boy came back. Is he ready?
I think
Are you there?
I think so. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I don't see you, but I hear you.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Let me just. I'm on the phone right now, so.
Oh, you moved over to your phone. All right. Well, yeah, I was taking a look at the
a shit show.
I was taking a look at the EHEX chart just to kind of take a look at that, where we are in perspective of it, and that 0.3 level I think is not far off, and the same with the penny on the PHEX. So yeah, these are, it's looking good. It's looking very healthy. Some of these pullbacks necessary. I could see another pullback here. Maybe not much more. We've already had a substantial pullback from 3.0 down to 2.8. Next level could probably be 3.4, 3.5 area before we get then another pullback. But yeah, as long as this keeps stair stepping like this, looking good and healthy.
Yeah, kind of mirroring the rest of the ecosystem. I think it's all looking very good right now. Lots and lots of strength. So good stuff on the chart. So if you guys are enjoying the stream, hit up the like. We appreciate you being here tonight. Let's move over real quick and we have a few different things we want to tackle here, but let's move over to this Binance thing. And I know I sent you, I forget who it was, but somebody made a cool kind of comprehensive post of all of the series of 3 or 4 posts now that they've made over the last months that seem like they're PulseChain coded here. So yet again, I forget what it was just the other day. There you go. Yeah. The Star Wars one is just freaking. It's literally the PulseX logo. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
And then we got the heart the other day. We've already seen another heartbeat thing before. Again, this is 3 or 4 times, and I think maybe on the first occasion, it was like maybe a little conspiratorial, to be like, oh, yeah, it's PulseChain. It seemed like it, but who knows? But now with this amount, it's pretty weird. And we also have the history of, I forget what the exact post was, but when Richard, I mean, way back when things were going on, it's funny that CZ's like totally out of jail now. I mean, it's good, obviously, but I mean, when he was going in and all this drama was happening with him and Binance from the DOJ, wrongfully putting him in jail, Richard tweeted about, does anybody know how do you contact somebody in jail and stuff like that? So, could CZ have, or could Richard have CZ's ear, I guess I'm saying, and what do you make of this? I mean, like we've talked about, like, oh, will there be an exchange listing? Who will it be with? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Do you think there's actually something in the works with Binance? Is it pointless to even like think about it or get our hopes up or anything like that? Or what do you make of these?
Well, I wouldn't get hopes up. However, Richard did make a statement at one point in time stating that he had handwritten CZ letters in jail. He said, I don't know how many other people. No, they weren't postcards. He wasn't advertising. He wrote them actually letters. And he probably explained what was going on with the case, how he was fighting for all of crypto. I'm sure he threw that in there. But yeah, I mean, he had definitely made a statement at one point that, he was probably one of the few that were handwriting him letters. Now, we don't know who else did. Obviously, that's no way to be known with that. But yeah, so there's definitely something going on. Or they love the engagement that PulseChain community gives them. And I think that could be more what it is than anything. Is there still engagement farming as well? But yeah, you've got the heart with the Pulse. This totally, looks like the Pulse X. I'm not sure what this DNA thing is supposed to look like or why it would even
Red Bull can
come into play. but and then you get the Pulse logo again here for this one. So yeah, I don't think this one matters a whole lot for the crypto traders DNA, but it doesn't really.
Well, like blood. I mean, DNA. I mean, yeah, I think it's probably the loosest one, but I think it still makes sense in context with everything else. But
sure, but these three for sure. Like, I mean, you can totally see something going on here, and it definitely raises questions and speculation for sure. Now, Binance is probably one of the biggest exchanges out there. For them to be the first one, I don't know how likely that is. And I saw somebody earlier say something about which would you rather see first? Would you rather see Coinbase or Gemini or Kraken?
Mexi.
Out of those three, though, Gemini, Kraken, or what was the other one? Coinbase, Gemini, or Kraken. Which one would you rather see? And I think, honestly, I would rather see Kraken do it first because I think that is more feasible. And then obviously, if there is enough volume, the other companies would be like, oh, damn it, we got to get on the boat here too, and capture some of this revenue share. So, I wouldn't mind seeing crypto.com take advantage of it too. So, that's another one that no one really talks about. And we have they probably have a lot of holdings in the token, the CRO token on PulseChain because of their airdrop. So, it may benefit them to integrate it somehow. So that's just another thought there too.
Yeah. Well, super interesting. I mean, if any of the major exchanges would list it, and that is something we could conceivably see as this goes on, and maybe the game has changed a little bit this cycle as compared to last, because last cycle, it was just Hex. Now there's actually a layer 1, a DEX, so maybe potentially just a listing for Pulse or something like that. But remains to be seen. We shall, definitely very interesting stuff coming out from Binance. And you make a good point. I mean, there's a lot of people who kind of leech off the ecosystem for engagement. And I mean, if you go to any of those posts, it's like all PulseChain people at the top. Or maybe that's just my algorithm. I don't know, but that's what it looks like. So, So we'll see on that. Sorry, Joe. Any other?
No, I said we'll see. We'll have to see. No.
Yeah. Interesting indeed. Let's move on to this. So this just kind of happened this was just like 2 days ago, and this is pretty interesting story. So Richard, we'll go into the Ethereum strategic reserve thing. So I forget who it was. I don't know why. I don't know if I ever saw who it was that maybe originally posted the chart of the Ethereum strategic reserve, but we all kind of saw the news from Richard retweeting the chart and then just saying, hey guys, I think you missed one, which was pretty funny, obviously meaning like himself and PulseChain. And it leads, and then we actually saw, so there's a couple angles here. So what, I think Martin, is that what you have on the screen right now? Okay.
No, I have Richard's on the screen now, but.
Oh, okay. Okay. But yeah, we had Storyteller, I think Martin wrote to the main dude that's kind of in charge of that. I forget who that is, but there's somebody who I think kind of gathered all this stuff together. And Martin, I think, did the application to get Richards listed, which was interesting. And yeah, I guess I'm just curious on your thoughts on that and where we're at with this.
Yeah, well, I saw. Okay, so there's been a newer development just like 2 hours ago as well.
Okay.
So the name was fabda.eth.
That's it.
I don't know. Fabderis is what looks like the name is. Apparently, somebody in charge of the whatever strategic reserve for Ethereum. Martin said, I've completed the application, providing all PulseChain treasury addresses, which currently hold 166,302. When listed, that would put PulseChain rank number 2, right after Ethereum Foundation and in front of Coinbase for that matter. So that's interesting. The one thing they're not talking about is the Ethereum from the AA days. Not even mentioned in that, which probably puts this up another couple 100,000 Ethereum as well. But no one's talking about it. So, that's why I said it. But then he goes on later to say, thank you. We will be adding PulseChain shortly. I just saw earlier on another post that somebody had made that they were going to add it next week, so that it would be on there next week. That was their final answer on this. But yeah, it's super bullish when you have Richard or PulseChain or whatever the name is. I think they're probably going to put it as PulseChain Sacrifice Fund or whatever, between the Ethereum Foundation and Coinbase. Gets a lot of eyes on it. And, just having those reserves. And what's even bigger is Richard called it himself. Like the problem with a lot of this is there's been a lot of speculation of saying, well, you can't really call it a reserve because we don't know what the intentions are with it. Anything like that. There's a lot of things we don't know. Well, Richard called it out himself. So, there's good reason to believe now that it is a reserve or some sort of reserve fund of some sort that is probably not going to sell very much. They did move. I guess it was 4,000 recently. 4,800 was moved to Tornado Cash about a month ago when there was a lot of speculation on that, whether it was used to pay the lawyers or what it was used for at that point. But yeah, so that's why it's under 170,000 what it was originally. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is. And I guess my question would be like, how much do you think that would impact this ecosystem? Like people seeing, and again, the other problem is like, what would it be titled? Like PulseChain Reserve or so. I mean, obviously having something about PulseChain in the title of it would be very interesting, but how much of an impact do you think that would make on people? Because I'm very confident because of the gatekeeping, because people are just, mainstream crypto people just look at Richard as like a name of the past that didn't he go to jail or whatever, like having no idea that he literally his ecosystem is the only thing that has precedence, like even over Ethereum in terms of legal clarity, which nobody even understands. But just how big of a thing do you think that is, like to have that up there I think that, he's been talking about advertising and stuff like that. I think that's huge,
Yeah. Well, I think the image itself would circulate like wildfire once that gets on there. And it's just one more thing where we got to get the gatekeeping to come down. I saw somebody earlier calling it hate keeping instead of gatekeeping, but, which is more fitting than anything because people just don't like Richard. And that's why there was something by Cointelegraph that was mentioning how Solana's volume had surpassed all the other chains put together. And I think Hexo or somebody commented that I see you left PulseChain's data out like normal. Right. So yeah, I mean, these images now, who's going to go to the website and see it? Ethereum reserve, whatever it is, .xyz, strategic ETH reserve .xyz. I can't even open it. I get an error when I open it.
Yeah, you were showing me that. I don't know why.
Yeah, I get the site could be risky, and then proceed anyway, and I get this is what I get. I get this error. So it's really strange. I can't even open it on my system. But either way, I think what happens is once we get on there, this image goes viral amongst Twitter, X, and it will catch eyes. That type of advertising is going to be amazing, I think. So that's the positive I see coming out of it, and seeing that, hey, it will ask questions. It will get people to ask questions. They may be like, well, I thought that guy was, in jail, or I thought that guy was whatever. And hopefully they do a little bit of research and find out, well, he just beat the SEC. Well, hey, maybe by then the red notice goes away, or, I'm sure his lawyers are still working on it. We haven't heard any kind of update with that. But just the image itself circulating is going to get people to look into it. So I think it's a net positive for everybody.
I think so too. And I'm sure mainstream crypto has no idea, how much he has and how impactful it could be. And the fact that he's, on record, as someone who seems like he'd be interested in buying his own tokens and things like that. Yeah. Just the reverse of the rest of crypto essentially. So yeah, I think it would be really good. The fake notice.
Styles. I mean, the fake notice. Yep, exactly.
There you go. So really good stuff indeed. We'll see what happens there, because if that could get updated as soon as next week, I mean, that would be great. I mean, we could really be on the verge of seeing, Richard Hart back in main character status here, and we are seeing, I just showed it to you the other day. I forget who it was, but like some relatively large kind of Bitcoin maxi type account, 250,000 followers, was posting about Richard positively. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if you deny the guy this cycle, after what just transpired with the court case. I mean, it's one thing to say that you think PulseChain's trash. I don't think it'll perform or whatever. I don't know how anybody with a straight face could be taken seriously in the realm of crypto that like still holds RH with like Alex Mashinsky, who literally just went to jail, I believe. So,
Yeah, it's fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, or whatever, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on you, whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? But after something like that. I mean, I think it just leads to him wanting the glory even more. It just, I think it adds fuel to his fire. I really believe that. And it was a popular Bitcoiner who said Richard may be one of the smartest people I know. Like him or not, you got to respect what he's done. And I think, the more people that post that way, the gates are slowly coming down. It's going to take a while. I mean, it really is. They don't like him because because he's right, and he's put a lot of people from different communities in their place that tried to, debate him or argue with him, and his intelligence definitely showed through, and he put a lot of people in their place, and that creates another dissension amongst different communities too. Not to mention how loud and obnoxious some of us are.
Right.
Not myself, not included, because I don't say a whole lot online. I read it and I usually don't comment. Not unfortunately, but I don't have a big following on there because I just don't say a whole lot. So is what it is.
You're just privately obnoxious anyway.
Yeah, I guess. Sure.
Yeah. Cool. We will see how things develop with that, but certainly bullish for sure. Let's get into this. So this is pretty interesting. And we saw some lead up to it. So talking about Rockham Rochelle and some of the things that he has going on, and kind of in a way, not just him, but a lot of the folks out there that are making an effort during these times to create advertising, create outreach, create different programs to, in Rockham's case, get somebody to supposedly debate Richard Hart, like what happened many times last cycle. Richard was known for doing debates with lots of crypto people, which were great. But Rockham was leading up to this post, I think that came out Monday or Tuesday, where he's essentially putting $1 million of his own money out there, supposedly, to anyone that is willing to debate Richard Hart. I think I sent you this tweet, right? I sent, his announcement of it. Okay.
I have it on the screen.
Okay. I don't know why it wasn't showing me that. My bad. There we go. So basically saying anybody that would want to debate Richard, and with all the parameters, what you need to do to sign up, all these different things. And on its face, I think this is great. It looks cool. I would love to see this happen. And I'm glad that Rockham and lots of others are, taking these kinds of actions here as there's the legal clarity and things starting to pick up. He had a Spaces the other day we were both listening to with, I think, Crypto Stylist was in there as well. And some people were floating a lot of interesting ideas in there. I know he caught some funny stuff as well. But, Rock definitely, putting his money where his mouth is here, seemingly. But and the thing that you and right when this came out, the first thing you said to me is does Richard know about this? Has it been run by RH? Do we know that? Because I still don't know. I have no idea. And honestly, even if Rockham said yes, I still wouldn't consider it proof necessarily. But I'm not bitching. I'm not complaining. I'm not saying I congratulate anybody doing this kind of stuff, including Dipcatcher, trying to make something like FlexNet right now to address problems he foresees in the ecosystem, whatever opportunities that people think are out there that are trying to make the ecosystem better, I think is great. I think that there's a lot of other things going on that's creating the prices not being to where we are yet, that we're just kind of waiting on. But I love that people are working right now. So what do you make of this Rockham thing, though?
Well, it's interesting. It definitely, he had the same deal out there last cycle. And nobody took him up on it. I recently saw yesterday or the day before a guy that had already debated Richard, and it was the most boring conversation where the guy was talking about all open source software and how he had designed this open source something. Again, it was so unmemorable that I don't even remember what it was that he came out and said that he had designed and came up with. And I noticed that he had posted and said, "I'll do it again. I had a great debate with him the first time." And I was like, seriously? It was probably one of the most boring of Richard's debates that I saw. It wasn't that interesting. And I was like, no, my vote is no. Don't give this guy $1 million because he's not that great of a debater anyway. So Richard's knowledge definitely shined through on that conversation. And yeah, my biggest thing is right now, Richard has not been overly public. It would almost have to, it does say a live recorded debate. so it doesn't say live stream or anything like that on Rackham's post. So maybe he has agreed to something recorded, where, you know, they could play it back later. I don't know the details. I hope that he is definitely okayed this. And I hope somebody interesting does come out where, you know, there is good conversation and a good debate about something. I think even Peter, was it Peter? No, not Peter. The gold guy.
Peter Schiff. Yeah.
Peter Schiff? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
They have debated before. And then,
that was
you
a
know,
rough one.
Which I think Richard made a lot of good points. I think that, you know, he did too for gold. Obviously, there was some back and forth there, but
it was a rough one to watch. It was kind of like the Trump Biden debates from 2020. Like Peter Schiff's mic was too hot, and it was just yelling over that. That's all I'm at.
Yeah. It was definitely rough, but I hope we get something good out of this, and even if not, it definitely gets the word out there. You know, there's $1 million floating around for somebody willing to do it. Now, is Richard rusty? That would be my concern, right? He hasn't been doing this every day. He's not been very vocal. His talking points aren't brushed up. And I don't know if he's sitting there practicing or not. But when you're doing it all the time and debating people over and over again, you get the talking points, you get the main things that you want to come across that you know you're right about, and people like to argue them, and you can really kind of drive them home. I think he may be, you know, he's smart enough to not be out of practice, but you know, there is that chance where he could be a little bit rusty when it does happen, if it happens. So that's my only concern about it. I think it's definitely good to get the word out there. I think it's good to see that kind of money and someone putting up, you know, a real money challenge that would hopefully something comes of it, but we'll see. I lost him again. Yeah, we need to take up a collection here to get him a new camera. All right, let's go over to chat, see what's going on here. Jim Rat Crypto, long time no see. All right, well, let's move on to something else here. And I know that, let's see. There he is. He's back. Welcome back.
No idea what's going on, but I'm assuming you kind of pushed that up. I don't know if you had anything else to say about it.
Nope. I didn't know which direction you wanted to take this next.
Let's see here. Let's see. So I guess maybe we should talk about the FlexNet thing a little bit more. Just real quick, especially since Dipcatcher was on with RH Max earlier today, and I think I watched pretty much the whole thing, but kind of had it on 2x, I think, but was following along. I know you watched part of it too, and it was interesting because it was interesting to read some of the comments, but essentially, if you're living under a rock, Dipcatcher, as of a couple of weeks ago, he of Gophers fame and all of the Hex perpetuals like Maxi and Desi and that stuff, and which I think were actually big, hits with people last cycle to be able to participate in bigger Hex stakes and stuff like that. But right now, so, he's been a proponent of Hex on Ethereum being the thing that needs to be a catalyst for the ecosystem. He feels like PulseChain shouldn't have even been created. The whole idea of airdrop tokens and PRC20 copies, so copies of whatever you held on Ethereum at the time of the fork to PulseChain at May 12th of 2023, you would have copies of those on PulseChain. He just feels that none of it should have happened. Actually, I think really does feel that Richard, or whoever should undo the entire thing in some way. I don't really know how that would happen at all. Basically just get rid of the copy of Hex, get rid of the copies of any other tokens from Ethereum, let PulseChain be whatever it is otherwise, and focus on eHex that would, be better for, I don't know, I guess I can't say better for the whole ecosystem because it seems like he's kind of against PulseChain, honestly. But he believes that is a way to benefit things, which I will say, again, like we talked about earlier, I mean, we've both been proponents of still collecting eHex along the way. I do still think, and, this is still, I guess, a controversial opinion, but it is still a way for people to get in the door. I mean, it's a token on Ethereum, which many people are familiar with. Hex has, and this is a point that Dipcatcher has made, Hex has a price history chart longer than the stuff in PulseChain. And it's an easy way for people to get in and understand it. And then I think, and this isn't what Dipcatcher is saying as much, but then I think you can get into PulseChain. Once you learn about the original Hex, learn about Richard Hart, you're likely going to, want to get into some other things that he's created, like many of us in the community now. So I guess my question to you, Ewok, is, a couple of weeks in here, and I don't think the testnet for FlexNet has launched quite yet, but a couple of weeks into this idea from Dipcatcher and having watched some of that stream today, I guess I'm curious what your thoughts are. I would say kind of what I said a minute ago, that I am happy that people are seeing what they perceive to be issues, problems that they can solve, and attempting to do it. I mean, I would never begrudge anybody from doing that or censor them from it or anything like that. I don't know that this is going to be any kind of an answer. That's just what I would also say. But I think, somebody trying to help eHex out in this way, I definitely think is a good thing. I just don't know that it's the best for all thing, but it is what it is. So there's a lot of angles to it. Hex would be the gas token on FlexNet. Richard, of course, has made his disdain for layer twos abundantly clear. What do you make of any way you want to take this?
Well, so there was one thing that I did like about what I heard. I didn't listen to the whole thing. I tried to listen to it in between while I was still working and everything, but I caught a little bit here and there. There was a comment that was made that even if the sequencer gets shut down, there is a function that can be run that you can force your transaction to go through. And if you have coins over there, you can get them off. That was one of my big concerns about, oh no, what if everybody bridges into Flex and does this or whatever, and they get stuck. Sequencer goes down and everything's stuck over there, locked forever. That was one of my big concerns. I wasn't aware of the force, I forget what it was called, but there is a way to get out without the sequencer. I'm sure if the Ethereum fees are at that point crazy, you're going to pay through the nose to have it to get it done. So you may have to wait. As far as, he's doing it for builders. He wants people to build on that network. Maybe if something cool gets launched on it, then they can kind of launch it on PulseChain. Maybe. I think that would be one of the benefits or bonuses out of it. I just don't see the need to create a layer 2 to get builders in. Like, I mean, I think there's plenty of things that if you want, I guess the ideas for doing something with Hex are kind of, there are the tokens out there like the perpetuals. There are the Hedron Icosa, which leads us to, I think, something even more interesting and that we don't know. A lot of questions about what Alex is doing, but maybe we can go to that next. But
we will, yeah.
I don't know. I just don't see the need. A lot of people, RH Max even said it himself. He's like, you're fighting what I feel is an uphill battle. And you don't have Richard's blessing because he doesn't like layer twos. As far as Richard shitting on eHex, I don't think that really ever happened. All he did was make a statement that said it looks like the market has chosen. He never said it was worse. Obviously we don't like the heavy Ethereum fees whenever things get out of hand. We'll see if any of these recent ETH updates have taken care of any of those fees or ability to increase block size or transactions and things like that to help it. Who knows? Maybe we won't have an NFT type thing this cycle that clogs up the network. Maybe it will be something else. So there's a lot of variables that we just don't know. And I think eHex is going to be fine. It's closer to the on and off ramps. It's still, he is right. There is a longer chart history for it. A lot less liquidity, which could make it run faster. Green candles again could bring people over. I just don't know. I just don't see the need for it. And I think it's definitely fighting an uphill battle. The people that like Dipcatcher may follow him and play around with it or do whatever. But the problem is he's got a lot that don't like him too. And you're starting out and putting yourself at a pretty big disadvantage. But all of those perpetuals still work. And in fact, I saw somebody asking if it was dead or something, maybe here in the comments. They're all working fine and working as intended. So yeah, I don't know. I just think he's putting himself in a bit of a disadvantage by being that contrarian type. And what I do like is that he's actually doing something. He's trying something. I mean, he's not sitting around waiting for somebody else to do something. He is actually, taking his knowledge and doing something with it, which I find that very commendable. So that's about all I really have to say on it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of people cannot look past, their personal feelings about him and just kind of emotionally react based on like some history stuff. And let's face it. I mean, I think again, he does purposely like to be the contrarian, and I think enjoys pissing people off, honestly. So I think he gets off on that. But the fact that he's at least trying something anyway. And I think that he was maybe a little bit misinterpreting RH Max's question about Richard not being a fan of layer twos today. Like, because we get it. You don't, you don't appeal to authority with Richard. You don't worship Richard. I don't think that's what RH Max was saying. He was saying that there is a market out there, which, they tend to become efficient over time. And, if you're trying to appeal to it, if you're Dipcatcher in this community, just take note that what if RH Max said it pretty well. Like RH one day says, yeah, there's a layer 2 out there trying to use Hex as a gas token. And this isn't a good idea because X, Y, or Z. Like, how much could that negatively impact you?
Yeah.
Like, I understand you not agreeing with him. That's fine. It's just that maybe that could heavily impact you since this is the kind of, market, the community that you're trying to help influence,
Sure. And as long as he's respectful, I don't see how it can. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything unless people lose money. That's the only way. And, there are obviously ways to get out of the layer 2 if the sequencer goes down. So again, that was my big concern. People can get in and out as they wish. It's a 1-to-1 redeemable ratio, so don't see any harm there. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I just don't see how it's going to benefit. I can't see a assload of people coming in to buy Hex to use as this gas token on a layer 2. I just don't know where the draw will come from, So
well, something else something this will take us. This is another curveball discussion point with this, because you and I don't agree on this. But another interesting aspect of this is, keep in mind that a lot of these imaginary horribles, or maybe potential real horribles, I don't know, that Dipcatcher is saying about PulseChain, the fact that it's so underwater with all the stack funds, and it's going to take decades to get out from all this sell pressure and all these crazy things that he said. He also is not a proponent of the PDI narrative and thinks that it's, I mean, I believe he is totally off board with all that stuff. So, as are you, Ewok. But, for those of us that are open-minded and think that something may still be brewing there, that could acquiesce a lot of the things that he's talking about potentially. And regardless of if you believe this or that about PDI or some of the other things that could be going on, Dipcatcher, us, nobody really knows any ideas Richard or anybody else within the ecosystem could have, or be privy to other information, of things that may be coming. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind of, kind of what people believe when it comes to what may or may not need to be done to really pump the ecosystem,
Yep. And I agree with Check My Pulse. I'm not interested in giving away my good tokens for any more of anything else right now.
No.
Not at this point in the cycle anyway. So, yeah, I agree.
I am with you. Yeah. I think that pretty much covers it. So that is what's going on with FlexNet. We'll see what continues to happen there. But yeah, let's wrap up with the little bit that we do know about this anyway, that you alluded to, Ewok, Alex McWhirter. So if you don't know that name, which it's possible by this point, so he last cycle, I think it actually would have been March of 22. Yeah, is when Hedron and Icosa, I mean, at least one of them anyway, Hedron
launched
first. Right. Yeah. So Hedron was essentially a way to take out a loan against your hex stakes. So that is something that Alex came up with back at that time. And you can, to this day, if you have hex stakes on Ethereum or PulseChain, up until the time that you're ending them, you can mint your free Hedron on all of those stakes. May not be worth all that much right now, but it is something that you can do. And then also he launched Icosa, which was more so tied to the value of the T-share. And as time kind of goes on here, really seems to be the token out of those two to focus more on. Like if you want even more leverage on Hex, Icosa is probably the best way to go, as it's tied to what's going on with the T-share for Hex stakes. So really a great creation. One of the very few creations that Richard Hart actually called out, as liking and appreciating. Another one of a few mechanisms that have been attempted over the years to make Hex long-term staking behavior, like basically incentivize it a little bit more. And it really sucks, but we haven't heard much from Alex over the last couple of years. He popped up at one of the conferences and was in there for a bit, I know, but he has tweeted sparingly. I know that he's got a whole, whatchamacallit, not a lab, but
it's got a whole warehouse.
in
center.
Like Texas.
Yeah, I don't know where it's at, but it's definitely a network center of a lot of equipment
stuff
and servers and a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so needless to say, he's been working hard. So the thing that he's floated these ideas for a while pretty concretely is that because of the split of, dealing with the Ethereum and PulseChain thing and having Hex on both chains, having Icosa and Hedron on both chains, how would he kind of attack the issue of those? And it sounds like he was going to make one token called Icosa Hedron, where what you would essentially do is any of either token that you already hold, you can send into an address, like a burn address of some sort, and then you would be rewarded with, or not rewarded, I guess, you would be then given the new Icosa Hedron tokens, 1-to-1 for whatever you sent in. So that's what we've kind of been waiting for. Haven't really heard anything on that. And then finally, we did hear very little from him, but we did see a tweet anyway, where he seems to be pretty happy, of course, that Richard is back, and he's talking about a new thing, this Sigma protocol. There doesn't really, I don't see any information really on it. He just kind of added it, and a lot of us followed it. Maybe we can intimate something from what he's posted here additionally, which just says what is needed more right now than ever is unification, something that nearly every person on PulseChain can point at and say, I like that. Something that reduces complexity, something that reduces entropy of the liquidity state as a whole, something that can be a foundation to the future and ease onboarding. I don't think he's wrong there. I just don't know specifically what he's pointing at. So
yeah,
we can speculate. Yeah, what do you make of this? I'm happy to see him back anyway. But yeah, what do you think he's got cooking here?
Well, I think it is still the Hedron Icosa version 2, whatever it is that he's been working on. Again, I hate to speculate because minds like his are way up here, and I honestly have no idea. For the longest time, though, when he did, it was just his words alone, though, kept the Ethereum Hedron and the PulseChain Hedron prices very similar for the longest time. And I don't know how far off they are now, but just the thought of being able to swap them one for the other and be the same value was pretty incredible just by him saying that. So I found that very interesting, on just the speculation of a platform that would do that. And how probably a very similar thing could have been done by Richard, and just what he said, and how eventually, well, maybe not eventually, but how he would like the prices to stay the same instead of creating division. I just thought that I found that very interesting on how those prices played out relative to the difference of how Hex played out on one chain versus the other. So yeah, I honestly have no idea. Sigma, I don't even know what Sigma has a meaning. If there is one, what it relates to crypto as, and is he still planning on doing some sort of being able to stake a Ethereum token over on PulseChain somehow, some way? I think that's what would be the amazing invention if anybody could do it. But I just don't understand or think that it's possible at this point.
I agree with you 100%. If there was a way, the thing is people talking about, could I stake eHex on PulseChain? Could I unstake eHex on PulseChain because of the fees and things like that? It is nice that we can at least buy eHex on PulseChain, but in terms of like the staking mechanism and stuff like that, and to your point, I don't know where Sigma came from, Sigma, but I know that there's a whole movement of I'm a Sigma male. I'm not an alpha male. I'm not a beta male. I'm a Sigma male. It means I'm quiet and I'm independent. I don't know. I think it's funny sector. But anyway, I don't really know what it means. I don't know if it's going to be like maybe the icosahedron thing is incorporated into this idea, but it seems like he is focusing on making onboarding easy, which is one of Richard Hart's 2 top core things that he was calling on right now: advertising, marketing, and this. So I have faith in it for sure. I would have thought that, and I'm not, I'm happy that anything that Alex creates, I would have thought we would have had something else by now from him, but he could have been waiting on certain clarities as well and certain things to become easier for him to create,
Yep.
So,
and maybe he's timing the market as well. That could be part of it too. He's a smart guy, and I think a lot of websites out there currently use the APIs that he provides for a lot of people. Hex Scout, I think the Go Pulse, they are, a lot of those guys are all using the APIs that Alex provides from his from his systems. So yeah,
Yep.
it could be all timing issue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true too. But I mean, Alex really has proven himself as somebody that's created some awesome stuff within the ecosystem. Obviously, the HSI auctions were very popular at some time. I don't hear many people talk about them as much now, but also you just don't even hear people talking about staking Hex a lot now either.
Well, you don't.
So.
And there's probably things you could get some pretty good value for some T-shares if you were to go in there and take a look. I haven't looked in a while myself. I know there was quite the discount on T-shares, though, at one point where you could get them for, just a couple bucks when they were a lot more than that if you tried to buy them yourself.
Some of that stuff I think could be a sneaky play as we get going here. I mean, You and I have talked about, like, in the bull market, Hex having a revenge, and almost nobody in crypto is up for a long-term mindset anymore. I mean, it's so crazy because we're another cycle in, but it seems to have gotten, in a way, more degen. You know what I mean? Because last cycle, I mean, Hex was a huge narrative. DeFi staking and yield was a gigantic narrative, like maybe the central narrative other than NFTs or GameFi and crap like that. DeFi platforms and staking was really it. Here we are now, and I guess this is a doomer way that you can look at it, but I mean, what have we really got? We had 2024 pump.fun token mania.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it's been. And I mean, look, memes definitely have their place. They're not going away. They're going to exist in crypto, and I'm not even, like, I advocate for memes. I think that's great. I just wonder if this industry is going to be a serious part of, the future of finance, which it clearly is. When is a market going to come to a long-term yield mechanism like Hex or anything similar again? What will make that shift happen? I just don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Any thought on that? I don't know.
No, I have no idea which way it's going to go. What will be the narrative of this cycle? That's what I was saying. I mean, it was earlier, last time it was the NFTs that really overloaded everything. And I just don't know what it will be that comes out as super, super popular this time. I don't think AI is going to do it. I don't think the meme coins have already had their cycle. What's left? DeFi was the last cycle. I do think there will be some DeFi that make it like Hex, and once people understand it, there will be more adoption as far as DeFi goes. But yeah, I don't know I have no idea what this cycle will bring us at this time. It's so hard to tell, and I wish I had the foresight to know.
Well, yeah, I think what we're maybe seeing here is a separation of the wheat from the chaff, as they say, because I think we're going to get, because it has been mainly trash this cycle, and yes, memes have their place and stuff, but I think we're seeing like the end of the Mashinsky story, all these other scammers that are going to jail, and like the legit real scammers. And I think we're, with the Richard Hart victory and the things we're seeing like that right now, you're starting to see like, okay, here's multiple cycle people that are building something real and not going for a cash grab versus the actual scammers. You had Sam Bankman-Fried in that whole group. You have the Mashinskys, the Do Kwons, the Three Arrows Capital people, all those people, all of these centralized staking platforms people know are pretty much scams at this point.
Right.
And then you see a guy like Richard who just set a gigantic precedent that people are going to take notice of and be forced to later this year. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, he is trying to be, again, he's talked about like having a legacy and, being in it for the glory. And I think we're seeing these people who are sticking around for multiple cycles to make a huge impact, and the market will take notice of that,
Yep, they sure will. And, Bitfinesse brings up something that's, not talked about too much, but there are going to be people that stake Hex, just like people who lost their Bitcoin along the way. And they're, trying to go back and find a garbage in a landfill somewhere because they threw away a hard drive or things like that. It's going to happen. It's going to happen eventually. And one last thing I had to say is, Viper Styles, I did not call for a $1 million Bitcoin. I want to make that clear. Put it out there. Not this cycle, not next cycle. Not for a while. Maybe next cycle, but definitely not this cycle.
You never know. We're gonna have to start calling you Ewok Sailor.
I think we've got a couple more cycles before we hit $1 million Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, it remains to be seen, but that's our thoughts on what's going on with Alex, and I think that's most of what we wanted to get to tonight. Ewok, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
The one thing, let's share this tab. I just wanted to bring this up and give these guys credit for what they're doing, and that is
that videos thing.
Yeah, so it's cryptovideos.io. It's basically going to be the new Pulse Tube. And as you can see, this is the live screen right now. Create a Crypto is on here. It shows us that we're live right now. Cultivate Crypto, Tom's Army, several things are live right now. It's just a very cool site, pertaining to like the crypto bubbles idea. And then whenever you click in it, there's a lot more like different videos and different stats, and it's pretty cool. So I wanted to give these guys credit for, building something new, coming up with this. It's a pretty cool idea, and give them credit where credit is due. We appreciate them including us in this as well.
It's good to see the big Create a Crypto bubble showing live down there, and it makes me want to say, do I have your attention? Do I have your attention now?
That's right.
Anyway, we're up there, and good resource for sure. Ewok, you shared that with me the other day. Looks very cool. It's kind of like the crypto price bubbles in video form. Yeah. So aesthetically pleasing and pretty sweet. So to sum kind of everything up here tonight. Sorry about the camera and all the bullshit technical issues haven't worked out, but I mean, in terms of this market, I mean, I went for a walk today, and I occasionally will do a little audio journal if stuff's on my mind. And I was kind of thinking about things in terms of the market anyway. And, it's just like we're finally seeing, again, like we said at the top of the show, there's all these nice things, bullish narrative things lining up. And now we're starting to see some price follow for once. And ever since Ethereum got that kill shot back in August of 24 over that one weekend when, I don't know, Japan nuked everybody, all the markets or whatever. We're finally seeing maybe it get out of this low territory. And the vindication of Richard and all these things. I mean, you're seeing a lot of people who have been silent the last couple of years because they wanted to wait until it was safe to dip their toes in. And kind of understandably so. They're putting in sizable clips and stuff, and maybe they wanted more clarity. We've been here talking and DCAing all along, and it just seems very bullish right now. And people getting involved in crypto again and in our ecosystem. We're seeing big bridges of over $1 million in ETH coming over and things like that. So it's feeling good.
Feeling great.
Yeah. So the plan is to kind of continue to DCA for us anyway. It's not like we're out of the buy zone yet or anything, but who knows? There's going to be a time when we are. So shout out everybody in the chat. Hit the like before you get out of here. We want to thank, I'm not even seeing the full names because of my compromised issues right now, but Viper Styles, Bitfinesse, there we go. Valiant Low Key, Connection, Digital Money Markets, of course. We got Omnom, and lots of others. We appreciate you guys being here. We do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Usually my camera works. Actually, that's not even true. I can't even say that.
That's not true.
But sometimes it does. Maybe I'll catch you one of these times. But for Crypto Ewok, this has been Broke Boy Crypto. We'll see you next week right here on the Creed of Crypto. See you guys.
See ya.